Haley is an American novelist and college professor who brings strong historical women to life in the novels she writes. Haley will facilitate a 2-part writing seminar. Welcome to Day 1 of the 14 Commandments of Writing.
I'm Haley Elizabeth Garwood. I write the Warrior Queen series about real women who've been left out of history. And I have 4 novels. The 4th one is up yonder somewhere. I had no idea I had written 2 pagan novels until it was pointed out to me by a friend of mine who happens to be pagan. And actually several of my friends are pagan. And so that's when I decided that I would like to try a pagan festival. And so this is my first pagan festival. It's fun. It's like sci-fi fantasy conferences. Maybe not quite so large, but it's interesting. And so my 2 pagan novels, the Forgotten Queen is the first novel I wrote. That's a non-pagan. The second pagan novel is called Ashes of Britannia, and that's about Boadicea, Boudica, whatever you want, however you want to pronounce her name, which no one can do because it's Celtic. That's about her. And then my other novel is early Christian. This is 10th century, Swords Across the Thames. This is about a woman who ruled. It's her name, Alfred the Great's daughter. Her name is Ethelflaed, but we call her Leia in the book because I couldn't type Ethelflaed for over and over and over again. So I shortened it to Leia. This is about her battles and her fight to preserve her country. Zenobia is my other pagan novel, 3rd century Syria. And this novel, I got a letter from the ambassador to the United States from Syria asking me if I would send him another one of the novels because he'd already worn out the one that I had written. And I was so shocked.
Oh, how awesome.
I have the letter. It's nice and gold. You know, I have an uncle who is from Syria, and he's Muslim. And when I got this gold embossed letter, I thought, oh my gosh, my uncle's in jail. And he's in Syria and he's in jail and he's in trouble. So I opened it up and I was so shocked. Naturally, I sent him another copy and signed this time. I don't know how he got a hold of it. But Zenobia is one of the Syrian heroines. She is very well known in Syria. And so when I'm doing book signings, if anyone from Syria comes in, they immediately run over and talk to me about Zenobia. So she was interesting. It was a happy accident. She was pagan. She had a city-state called Palmyra, and she had Christians and Jews in her city-state, but they all lived together. There was no conflict. She accepted them, they accepted her. And it was kind of nice. Now, the Romans didn't like her very well, so we had problems with the Romans. So it's pagan on pagan in this book. Same with this book. Boadicea had to fight the Romans. What I want to do today is talk to you about the 14 Commandments of Writing. And it started out as the 10 Commandments of Writing, and of course I kept adding to it. And when I said commandments are meant to be broken, I think you have to know the rules, and then you can decide to break the rules. But you need to know them first. And the first rule is thou shalt not use adverbs, for they lead one down the path of telling, not showing. Adverbs are the ly words, excuse me, such as, I call it the Hardy Boy syndrome. Have you ever read a Hardy Boy book? Hardy Boy books just drive me up a wall. The Hardy Boy syndrome is like this. Here's an example of what not to do. Of course, when you teach, you're not supposed to tell students what not to do because that's what they'll do. But don't do this. No. Sue stared at him angrily. Yes, Jim said smugly, I have my ways. I have my ways too, Sue said shakily. I break arms, Jim said threateningly. You break hearts, Sue said sadly. Now that's an exaggeration. I would never write like that. Maybe when I was 6, but no. That's the Hardy Boy syndrome. Because in the Hardy Boy books, they shortcut everything and they underestimated the intelligence of kids way back in the 30s. Nancy Drew is the same way, but not quite as bad. But you have a lot of adverbs telling the audience, the reader, what the person is thinking. Now, how are you going to show anger? How are you going to show fear without using adverbs? You have to use a description. How are you going to do that? Any ideas? How do you show anger? Anger is an easy emotion to show because when we're angry, we get certain looks on our faces. How would you show anger if you a conflict situation? How would you show that?
His face turns red.
What?
His face turns red.
Okay, his face turned red, and you're outside. You're the other person looking at them.
Yeah.
What else do people do when they get angry?
Veins pop out.
Oh yeah, not too far, but yes.
Began to throw things.
Some people throw things. I'm a thrower, and I used to play baseball, softball, and I'm good. And
but that needs to be character driven. You need to know what your character
yes,
would do.
exactly.
When that person is angry.
Yes. Some people do internalize it, and they don't let it out. But the whole point is, don't tell us, show us. There's a Broadway song that says, "Don't speak of love, show me." Okay, show me. What you want to do is you're trying to build, you do need to build your characters first. You want well-rounded characters. You don't want to have to depend on adverbs to tell what your characters are going to do. It has to come within the character and not outside the character. Now, minor characters, if they only walk on for 2 or 3 lines, then don't worry about it. They're there for a reason, and they're not that important. And also remember, every rule can be broken. I go back through and I circle all my adverbs. The first time I write, now I don't do this anymore because I don't write with adverbs anymore. I've trained myself not to, but I used to go through my manuscripts and just circle all the adverbs and then go back and try to fill it in. And it helps with, interestingly enough, it helps with the developing of your character because it does force you to say why. Why did they do this? What are they doing? What caused it? And that brings me to another point, which is every scene should have conflict. There's internal conflict and there's external conflict. Every scene needs conflict, or you have to ask yourself, why is the scene there? Now, of course, description is an exception. Although in terms of some descriptions, even descriptions can have conflict if you're talking about a storm, for example. So, other than using adverbs, which keep you from developing conflict, you need to go to the second commandment, which is, thou shalt not use ing words, for they weaken thy sentences.
So,
ing.
no. So number 2 is not every
Number-
scene needs conflict?
Yeah, I'll leave that. You're fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, so number 2
Is thou shalt not use ing words, for they weaken thy sentences. Ing words are passive. They're I am going. I was jumping. As soon as you use the was verb, you're into passive activity. So you want to keep everything active. It's tradition to write novels in the past tense. That's tradition. We always write in the past tense because we say the story happened in the past. Even what we did yesterday is in the past. What we did 3 seconds ago is in the past. That's tradition. You don't have to do that. It depends on what you want to do. There's pros and cons for everything. This is the norm. The use of ing words throws one out of the past tense, which is your norm, and often creates a real subtle shift in tense, which either slows down the action or messes it up one way or another. Like I said, she was running, she was screaming, she was stumbling, but couldn't keep up the pace. That's passive. Was running, was stumbling, couldn't keep up. Okay. She ran, she stumbled, put you in the direct past tense. You get rid of the was, you get rid of that extra word, you get rid of, you tighten everything up at that point. Jan was falling down the side of the embankment before she knew what was happening to her. The irate goat was tumbling after her, and Jan knew he was going to eat her leg or something. Okay? That's all passive. Let's try it again. She ran, screamed, and stumbled, but couldn't keep up the pace. She looked over her shoulder at her attacker. Darn, he still came after her. She turned in time to realize she was on the edge of an embankment. There's a she was verb. I couldn't get rid of it. I tried. Too late. She fell down the hill and rolled out of control before she knew what had happened to her. The damned irate goat tumbled after her, and Jan knew he would eat her leg or some body part. Okay. Now, it forces the reader into the action. It's immediate. She ran, she stumbled, she fell. You're with her. It's very subtle. It's all based on the English language. We grew up with the English language, that's what we're used to. This also shows inner conflict and outer conflict. What is her inner conflict?
She's about to fall down, and she's scared she's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
The goat's going to eat her.
The goat is going to eat her. I've never been eaten by a goat yet, but
No,
you know. But that most people don't know goats don't really eat you.
I don't know if they're picky eaters.
They are picky eaters.
They do bite. And
They do
those that
bite.
follow
That's
that
true. They bite.
Tend to nip more than those that are not.
Yeah.
Lick.
That's right.
And they also like to. They also, if you tame the little goats, they like to get in your lap. Anytime you're sitting down, they crawl into your lap. They're so funny. They're really funny. Okay, so we have the inner conflict, which is she is trying to get away from something that she is afraid of. What's the outer conflict?
The cliff.
The what?
Cliff that she fell
The
down.
cliff could be. What else is? Yeah. And what else is an outer conflict? The goat. He's out there, man. That's conflict. So you have this one. Of course, when I'm writing a book, I can't be quite so. I can try, but you can't always do what I tell you to do. Okay. And like I said, you have to remember to give your characters. This is number 3, by the way. Give your characters internal conflict. It actually says, thou shalt not forget to give your characters internal conflict, which is so funny because I'm doing exactly in the commandments what I tell you not to do, and it's that thou shalt not. It's all kind of backwards. Hit it on, straight on. Give your characters internal conflict. That internal conflict, you have usually a big internal conflict. And so a lot of times you have other internal conflicts that may come and go throughout the novel. If it's a novel, you will have other internal conflicts depending on what's happening. If it's a short story, your external conflict and your internal conflict are more simplified. You'll have maybe one of each. Maybe it's all external. I don't know. It depends. See, like I said, whatever you do, whatever works for you, go for it. These are just guidelines. They're not really commandments. But I call them that because I figure somebody's got to break them anyway. If your characters don't have any internal conflict, where's your story? Could be. What if you don't have external conflict either? Where's your story?
It's inner.
Yeah, it has to be, you have to have internal conflict or external conflict. If you have one, you usually have the other. You have to have that. Otherwise, there's no point in writing the story. Unless you're writing a feel-good story. Yeah, I know. A feel-good story, you quit reading a feel-good story if there's no internal conflict. This is just an example of a character who has nothing. She kissed her dad, no internal conflict. She kissed her dad's cheek, sat down to a hearty breakfast, and waited for the server to leave the huge dining room. Today, she and her mom would shop for clothes for college. She'd gotten into her first choice school, Yale, and had a full academic scholarship, and her best friend would be her roommate. Her boyfriend, John, was already a sophomore in business. He'd made the dean's list, had never been drunk, and played football and basketball. How much further do you want to go?
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Perfect life.
Yeah, but that sets you up for when the conflict happens.
Yeah.
It could. It
It
could.
all
Find
seems
out
so
that John's got an
perfect.
illegitimate child.
Right, or
Yeah.
he's gay.
Hang in there to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You could, but I like to show conflict right away. I don't know if I can. If I do it in the first, let's see. Do I do it in the first line? We'll
Do you
try.
break your own rules?
Of course. That's why I write the rules, so I can say, well, I broke them. This is 252 AD, the Syrian desert. It was a beautiful day for death.
Yeah, that's a great line.
It's been used before. I mean, people pull this out of here and they use it on their different, websites and
on their
blogs.
Facebook.
I have Facebook. I haven't figured it out
Well,
yet.
tomorrow for the rapture.
Oh yeah. Hi. Yes, it was a beautiful day for
If the rapture
death.
happens, I'll be home Monday.
And if it doesn't,
I'll be home Sunday.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that was that conflict. Let's see what we have here. It started off. It was a beautiful day for death. It's definitely a conflict. Let's see what we did here for conflict. I call her Boadicea. I'm sorry, people, I can't pronounce the other stuff. Boadicea stood in front of the altar and lifted high a glass flagon filled with blood-colored wine. Not so good. She'd participated in so many Druid rituals here, so many celebrations of life. Now her chalice held only death, wine kissed with hemlock. There's that one. I did a lot of Druid research because I had no idea anything about the Druids, even though I come from a Celtic background. I had no knowledge of Druids.
Well, there's a good group of us here today. So.
Yeah, it's cool. Swords Across the Thames. I started off with, this is 10th century England. The Vikings were trying to invade, and the Anglo-Saxons were taking them back. Yes, I'm Viking, but I had to write against my own people. I wrote against my own people, darn! But at any rate, my heroine, I liked her because she was kind of cool. Daughter of Alfred the Great. Run, run. Leia kicked her horse in the ribs, and of course, I don't know where else you kick a horse, but a lot of people don't ride horses, so I had to put in the
there
ribs.
are other places to kick a horse to make it go fast.
That's right, but I went ahead and did that. Run, run. Leia kicked her horse in the ribs and lay against his neck, holding onto her cowl with one hand. The strength of the wind against the cowl was too much trouble, and she let the head covering go. Now, she was being chased by the Viking hero. So that's the conflict there. She's already running. And the Forgotten Queen is up in the front, and I don't remember how I started that one. That was my first book. That's when I go back and read that one now. I would have changed some things, knowing what I know now. But you don't worry about it.
Because it's an organic thing in and of the moment in itself.
It's a process, and you learn about writing as you go, and that's fine because that one sells too, and it's still selling. So I reprinted it. So it's okay.
I think that's the joy of a writer is to read their first book and then to watch them get better over time.
I read authors in order
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
Because of that, I like to do that. And conversely, thou shalt not forget, number 4, to give your characters external conflict. Now, the external conflict has to be something that's massive enough to, thank you, make the reader want to keep reading. Okay, you have to, external conflict. Can you imagine the external conflict for tomorrow for all these people who are, if I thought I was going to be jerked into heaven tomorrow and the rest of the world was going to burn, I wouldn't bother to clean house. I wouldn't bother. I'd probably put on my best clothes and all my jewelry and be ready. But then I would feel badly about the people who would not be coming with me. There would be people not coming with me because they would be laughing at me. But maybe you don't care. I don't know. But external conflict. Everything has to have external conflict. Whether it is a major, big moment that the character has, or something that's smaller but really an irritant? What's an external conflict for you guys when you go back to the real world, to the mundane world? What's an external, what? Go ahead.
Well, it was actually internal, not saying things that you would say in a pagan gathering.
Exactly. Do you know what people said to me when I said I'm going to my first pagan festival? They said, "Oh, call us and let us know you made it back." And I said, and then the other things are like, "Are you sure you want to go?" "Well, yeah. Do you want to go with me?" "No."
Tell me they were as wild as everything.
Kentucky and West Virginia.
Okay.
And The Forgotten Queen, how do I start that? This is my first book. I did a lot of research on her, and I liked her. She was the last person to invade England by land, not counting World War II. She's the Forgotten Queen because she actually ruled England for 19 months, and they leave her out of the history books for the most part. Marry that barbarian. Has my father totally lost his senses? I am Matilda, daughter of that same Henry I, King of England, granddaughter of William the Conqueror, empress of most of the civilized world, and princess of this graceless island. Okay, there you go. There's your hook and there's your conflict.
What about money? Can money be an external conflict?
Yes!
Okay.
How often do you say, I want to go to this pagan conference, but I can't afford to go? This conference or another conference? I had to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to stay at the inn. How much is that per night? Blah, blah, blah. You know, all that stuff. Yes, money's a big external conflict. Money creates divorces, or the lack of money creates divorces. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a major one.
Money and kids.
Money and kids.
Oh, children.
Responsibilities, external conflict, huge.
Mm-hmm. How many of you drove your kids to school and baseball games and football games or whatever they were in? You know, I had 4 kids and went to college. It was like a major. It was like planning an invasion. Mm-hmm. Seriously, to try to get
everything long term. An invasion would be easier because it would be one swift thrust.
Yeah, you're right. This was long term. We had a major calendar in the kitchen.
Hard.
Color-coded my children. Put X's on the forehead so I'd remember which one was going where. Okay, so you need the external conflict. And there's external conflict for any of you might be different than external conflict for me. External conflict for me is I'm teaching literature, and I want to teach a certain book that most of the students will really find problematic, and it's way off the wall. So should I or should I not? And you think that's funny at the college level, but it's not. You have to consider who your readership is.
What do you want to?
I teach writing, but I also teach literature.
No, what book do you want?
It was called In Cold Blood, which is by Capote. Yeah. And the problem is he's gay.
Oh.
The writer is gay.
Oh, and
I'm in Kentucky. Come on, I'm in Kentucky.
I'm in Tennessee.
I know.
Louisiana.
Yeah. However, I'm at a community college, and it's a little different.
How far away from Louisville are you?
Louisville?
Louisville is one of the biggest.
I know. 120 miles. I'm south.
Yeah, I mean Louisville is actually one of the.
But I'm south of Bowling Green. I'm in a rural area.
Yeah, that's right.
It hasn't made it there. So I did it anyway. And then I showed the movie Capote. And I'm trying to educate people in more ways than one. I just have to be subversive about it sometimes. How many of you know about the use of the 5 senses? This is commandment number 5. Mm-hmm. The 5 senses, what are they? And how do you use them?
Hearing, sight, smell, taste, touch.
Yeah. Hearing, sight, smell, taste, and touch. We use sight all the time. Sight is our major one. Sight is the one that we always, maybe it's because we all see. And we look at things and we try to describe them. The other senses we leave out. If you can do a paragraph with 2 or more senses in it, then that's a fairly strong paragraph. you can get your audience into your world. You are building a world. In sci-fi and fiction, science fiction and fantasy, they do talk definitely about world building outside of writing. But it works, it's what we're doing as I'm building a world, you're building a world. Whether it's a modern world or an ancient world, medieval world, you build that world for your audience, and you do it by using the 5 senses as often as you can. Now, don't overdo it. Don't make your paragraphs so long and so beautiful that people skip over. Have you ever read a book where you start reading a lot of the older literature?
Yeah, I had to read Piers Anthony that way.
Yes.
I had to read the first line of every paragraph, and that's how I got through the whole book.
Okay, why?
Because his paragraphs were so detailed, but they were detailed almost to the point of being insignificant.
Yes, okay. And that's older writing, by the way.
Way too much.
That's older writing. If you read Jane Eyre and you go back to the early 1800s, you have to be prepared to read all the descriptions and all the internal descriptions and all that. That's part of it. Nowadays, we read faster. We have less time. We have fewer minutes in the day to devote to reading. And so we don't, as a writer, you can put something there, but you don't put it all there. So you build your world using your 5 senses to drop the reader in immediately. I do use some description because I need to, because of the type of writing I'm doing. I have to explain sometimes what a cowl is. If you're not Catholic, you don't know what the nuns wore, and so you don't have that word in your vocabulary. So I had to let it blow off. She had to hold it, and then she had to let it blow off. That took me some wordage to do that. And when I go back and start cutting, I have to decide what to cut. First time through, you write everything. You write as fast as you can. After I do my research, I write everything as fast as I can. I have usually about 1,000 typed pages, and then I cut it down. For one of these books, I cut it down to about 700. So I eliminate a lot, about 300 pages of words and verbiage, and I move things around. I love the computer. I used to do this by hand. It was awful. I love the computer. And part of so the first time through, just write. Just write. That's what you have to do. So you do the 5 senses because you need to build that world for your reader. Now, also be careful of pacing. What the heck is pacing? Anybody have an idea of what pacing is?
I have been told with my writing that I tend to gloss over the action and just speed through the scenes.
Okay. Maybe if you look at your writing by the use of 5 senses, that might slow you down a bit.
Yeah, and then, yes. And
get the
try
action
to be more
there.
Descriptive. Because a lot of times it's assuming that the reader knows the landscape that you're setting it in, and they don't always.
And that's exactly right.
You know,
they
like
do not
if I have
always.
a story set on a goat farm.
How many people have ever been on a goat farm? Okay, we're unusual.
Okay.
A lot of people haven't.
A lot of people haven't. You know, they don't know that goats like to lay down. They don't know that they spend most of their time in the brush, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. They don't know that the boys get stinky in the fall, you know.
Yeah, they don't know any of that.
Because this poor girl who's running could have smelled the goat long before he ever came to her.
That's right.
You know. And maybe that's the reason he's chasing her.
Yeah, I don't want to go there.
That's another class.
Okay, where were we? Okay, pacing is you can have a descriptive scene, but after you have a descriptive scene, you need to speed it up a little bit, and it's all instinct. There's nothing, I can't teach it to you. All I can say is dialogue is faster. Okay, dialogue will clip alone. My master's degree in theater is in playwriting. I learned dialogue and how to make it work long before I started writing novels. And my novels are filled with more dialogue than probably normal, but people seem to like that. And so, what's pacing? You can flip through a book and you can see the way the print changes. See, well, I don't even have, I have dialogue in here, but it's got beats with it. So let me see if I have, some of my books have more dialogue than others. I can't see, but that's how you do it. You just flip through a book and you can see the dialogue.
One of the problems I've had with dialogue is basically keeping track of who's, like he said, or
Okay, these are called beats. I'll get back to that. Okay. I'm gonna do the tomorrow when you hand me back today. You're gonna hand me in some writing. Tomorrow I'm gonna hand it back to you. But then I'm gonna do a dialogue, seminar on dialogue and the functions, the 6 functions of dialogue tomorrow. And I have my computer, and it's on my computer, and we can set it up here and just click through it. You can see it, okay? But there are issues with dialogue. You have to be careful why you're doing it. Pacing is, in advertisement, they talk about white space to give the
eye time to rest.
The eye time to rest, thank you. It's the same with these novels, with short stories, with anything. Dialogue gives you that white space. And I'll talk about the beats. If you're not coming tomorrow, I'll talk about that a little bit later, about how you do that, the he said, she said. There are tricks to it. Some dialogue is simple. It's just imparting information. Some dialogue is more complex. It's talking, the person is pouring their guts out. You've all been in situations, I'm sure, where you were having major interaction with someone, and you were both the receiver and the giver. You were pouring out your guts, laying your heart open on the table. That's very intense dialogue, and you can do that in a novel because you're one step away from reality, and you can be, even though you get inside the skin of those people, you can write that dialogue knowing that you're not really there, although sometimes I slip into it. Sometimes after I've been writing for a long time, I live alone now. My children are in Florida, my grandchildren are in Florida, and I don't have much interruption when I go home to write, and so I can drop into my novel rather quickly and be in that world, and nobody bothers me because I'm on farms, and that's why I'm on a farm. I could not live in the city; it would drive me nuts. So you can leave this world and be in your own world.
Pacing, sort of the rhythm.
Pacing is a rhythm. It's a rhythm, and don't get too concerned about it, but just watch it. If you have pages and pages and pages of description, just remember that's slowing the reader down, and you don't want them to skip. And whatever you have in there should be important. If it's not important, don't put it in. The hardest thing in the world when I first started was to cut out the scenes that I really loved. But my editor would say, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't mean anything, there's no conflict. I'm like, but it's so pretty. No, it's not. It's boring. Oh, God. And you develop really a tough skin. Anybody can say anything to me now, and I go, well, shit. Oh, sorry. I forgot you were on. Okay. The commandment that I get really bent when this happens, and I find it in readers that I'm editing, and I do contest judging. Thou shalt not head hop, but write each chapter or scene from one point of view. Head hopping is what some people could do and get by with it. Nora Roberts can head hop, but she does it so eloquently that the reader knows exactly whose head they're in. When you're first starting out, you should try to make one scene from one person's point of view. You can also try a scene from 2 different points of view if you don't know whose scene it is. You can try it from John's point of view and then also from Mary's point of view. Sometimes you figure out whose scene it is from that. But head hopping is when you jump from character to character to character. I can't remember the title of the McMurtry book. What? Lonesome Dove. He has a campfire scene with 5 guys around it, and he head hops from guy to guy to guy. You know exactly whose head you're in. But as a novice writer, you can't do that. He can break the rules because he knows why he's doing it and how to do it.
So you can't say something like, he thought she was so pretty and she thought he wasn't too bad either.
No.
Okay.
Because you're head hopping.
Okay.
And you're confusing your reader, and as soon as you confuse your reader, you're pulling them out of the world you've built. The whole idea is to build this world, drop your reader into it, and you know when you read a book that you cannot put down, that's a winner.
Yeah.
When you read a book you cannot put down, you're in that world. You have bought into it. That's the whole idea. You've got to build your world for your reader. Otherwise, you're cheating your reader. So you can... I started off with this book. Each chapter, I had one point of view. Chapter. My chapters are like 20 pages long. I'm in one point of view. By the time I got to the fourth book, I was working on scenes from a point of view, and maybe the next scene would be another point of view. I had learned to control that point of view problem, that head-hopping problem. I can't read a book, and I can't judge it. Oh, it's very difficult if I get something and I'm judging and they're head-hopping. Drives me crazy. And so, because you're jerked back and forth, in and out of one person's world into another person's world, back into it. You can't do it. Don't head-hop. If you need to switch from one person's view to another, then you have to make the transition so that the reader knows you're in the other person's head. There are all kinds of... That comes up sort of with the dialogue and the beats and action and feelings and all that. That's how you deal with that sometimes. This is head hopping. John wished she would go away. He had a date, and the last person he wanted to be seen with was Sarah. Yeah, nice. Sarah nodded. There was a massive two-word response. John hid something from her. She'd find out. So, want to go for a drink? See, I'm head hopping there. And this goes on for 6 or 7 lines, but I want to leave you guys time to write. Number 8. Thou shalt not write with all those silly, unnecessary, extraneous, wordy words. New writers tend to write dialogue like people talk. It's not necessary.
Can you say that again?
Which part? New writers tend to write dialogue like people talk. They'll put in the ums and the so and don't do that. You want it quick and clean and to the point. It slows down your story. It breaks the rhythm. Here are some words that aren't necessary. Is one of them, of course, and Strike out the word well. Strike out so now, or many other sentences that start with these words. Somebody will say, well, I wondered. Don't start there. Start with, I wondered. A lot of times when we're doing dialogue, we throw those words in when we're talking to each other. I just did one, you know when. Because we're stalling for time to get our thoughts in order. When it's on the written page, you don't have to stall for time. You can sit there and stop and say, wonder what I want to say.
But isn't that the personality of the character?
It's more of an irritant than a personality. You can build...
The person's irritating.
If the person's irritating, no, I'd make the person irritating some other way. Because what you're doing is irritating your reader. Instead of, you're telling them this person's irritating instead of showing.
If you've ever transcribed an interview, you really see that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, okay, exactly. The Valley Girl syndrome, I suppose that could be. Well, it's okay. And another thing, and this is number 9, thou shalt not ignore self-editing or peer editing. You don't want your mommies to edit for you. They love everything you write, unless you have a witch for a mother. And then she'd hate everything you write and wouldn't do you any good anyway. Yeah. So you self-edit. Put everything aside for a day or 2. If you're writing a long work, you can go back and start working on chapter 1 if you're on chapter 5. And I probably edit. My guess is I go through every manuscript of my own before I send it out to an editor I'll bet I go through it 10 times as a whole. It's a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of note-taking, a lot of marks, and I have to color. I go through so many times I have to color code my edits. I do red, green, purple, aqua, turquoise, whatever. Color code everything, because then I have to know, well, where am I in the process of editing? Is this a first edit and I didn't know X happened back here? You have to edit. Peer editing, choose your peer editors carefully. Choose other writers who know what you're doing. Choose people. I have a beta reader who reads my novels, and she has agreed to read. She's good for Viking because she knows Viking history, and she's in Norway. And so I email stuff to her, or send her a chapter, and she'll edit for me in English, thank goodness, and correct my errors, which is great. Or mostly I don't have grammar errors because I teach grammar, so that's not a problem. The problem is sometimes continuity, because you know more than your reader does, and continuity is a problem, can be a problem. Another problem is historical research for me. I am very picky about my research, but I still screw up, and I try to find an expert to do it to peer edit just for historical facts. I have someone who's very, very good, who writes historical columns all the time. And so I get a lot of peer editing, a lot of self-editing. Editing is major. Editing is the hardest thing to teach students to do, because they think they can write a paper once and turn it in. And when I start to grade it and I'm finding common errors, I give it back and I don't finish grading it, and I make them do it again and again and again. Now, my students do learn grammar and how to write by the end of the semester, but it's very painful for them. It's also painful for me because I'm grading the same thing over and over again. I mean, I grade a lot. I edit, and I tell them, I'm editing you. Get used to it. And a lot of them are in nursing school, and I want the smart ones to make it. And the ones who can't learn, I don't want them to be my nurse. Seriously, I tell them that. Yeah. Hey, and I ask them all the time, what's your grade in anatomy and physiology? How are you doing there? I talked to that professor, and I said, how are your students doing? He goes, I said, I have to flunk half the class. They can't get it. And I said, oh, good, please do. Don't let any pre-meds slip through. I wish doctors would put their grades up on their office walls. I want to know what you made. Foreshadowing. Thou shalt not forget foreshadowing. This is number 10. I hope I don't take away all your time. I want to give you time to write. Okay. Foreshadowing is a hint of what's to come. Foreshadowing, we know what's going to happen. It's a clever way of saying to the reader, watch this, it's important later. But you do it in a very subtle way. Sometimes, the dark and stormy night, that's foreshadowing, but don't use that. Peanuts uses it in his cartoon. Snoopy. Wasn't Snoopy the little dog who typed? I wonder how he did that without a thumb, but anyway.
I don't know. Mine doesn't just.
Yeah. Ooh, that's what you use it for the space bar, I guess. Anyway, it was a dark and stormy night. Well, that's telling, not showing. And that sets up all your mystery stories. Your old movies, the old vampire movies, all those old awful movies. Yeah, some of the Sherlock Holmes movies takes place in the fog. Oh, fog. Fog is wonderful. No, don't do that. Be subtle with your foreshadowing. Let us know, if you can, what might come. So later, when your reader gets to the point that you want them to get to, they can say, I should have figured that out. So you're giving them little hints. Mysteries that's a good place to foreshadow, but I don't know how you foreshadow. It just comes kind of naturally. It's kind of a hard thing to do, but if you think about it, you can think about how to do it. Oh, do we have a rat in here or something?
No, I think
Think what?
I think it's chimney swift.
Okay.
There's bird in the chimney.
All right. Whatever. Number 11, thou shalt not use dialogue tags other than said or asked.
Said or what?
Asked. A-S-K-E-D. asked. The reason is that you don't want to tell your reader that the character is angry. Remember I said the adverbs? Angrily, happily, all this? Don't use those. She said happily. No, no, no. Don't tell us, show us. You don't need to use any dialogue tags other than said or asked.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, if you, this goes into your question about what I call beats and tag. And well, those are dialogue tags, but beats. Beats are where you put in. What was your original question? What were you asking about?
Well, basically having trouble remembering who's talking.
Who's talking? You can say something like, Kathy said, John asked, Kathy said, John said, or that can get a little boring. Or you can do what we call beats. For instance, you can say, Kathy said blah, blah, blah. Actually, you do it the other way around. You say the dialogue first. I won't do that, comma, Kathy said. And you always use the name first, and then the said or the asked. It's just a way of letting your reader know immediately who's talking. They don't have to, it's an odd little thing, but it's one of those things that editors look at. You can say, if your character's stalling for time, Kathy put the dish aside, propped her elbows on the table, and stared at John. Why? Then you know that's Kathy. John said, and then you can say, because I can't take it anymore, John said. What can't you take? Kathy asked. See, you can keep that going, and then you can give another beat in there. John slammed his fist on the table. That tells you who's going to speak next. I don't care. I won't do it. You've got John. You've got a little action, you've got John. Those are your beats. You can use your beats to keep your audience in line. You can use, if you want to use short, choppy dialogue, which you do sometimes for rhythm, you can do the Kathy said, John said, Kathy said, skipped a line if you know it's John for sure, and then go back. You can say John, you can say blah, 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 skip the John said, and Kathy said blah, 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 or blah, 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 Kathy said. It's all a crapshoot. It's all how you decide you can do it.
You wouldn't say, like, Kathy responded.
No,
You
never.
just said,
That's a Hardy Boy syndrome type problem. It's said or asked. You don't need anything else.
Queried would be pretentious.
A bit. A bit. Besides, it's hard to type a Q. Okay, here's how you can do it. I saw the murder. Michelle put her hands to her face. Tears emerged from between her fingers. Now remember, this is first time writing. I haven't edited this much. This dialogue is a beat that happens to be action, because she's action. Some beats aren't. Where were you when you saw this murder? Detective Johnson leaned forward and clicked on the tape recorder. He didn't think anyone had seen the hit go down. If her story held true, then it would be difficult to fake Ronnie the elephant's involvement. Okay. I must have wonder what I was smoking when I wrote that.
Oh, the elephant pulled the trigger.
Is it like a mafia name?
Ronnie the elephant. Yeah, it is. And also, with this bit of dialogue and the beat, you know that it's Detective Johnson. You're in his head. Okay? We use this sequence, just that few lines. We establish point of view, inner conflict, outer conflict for the detective. Okay? I had just come from work and decided to take a shortcut across the park. I've done it before. Now, I've stopped and talked, but here no dialogue tag is needed because we know who's talking. But I stopped and explained a bunch of stuff, so you might have lost it. But if you're reading it, you don't need a dialogue tag. What time? Still no dialogue tag because we know the detective. Just after 9:30 when the store closes. Why? Michelle asked. There you go. You throw that in just to make sure your audience knows. And it's an ask because it's a question. I want to establish the time of death. Detective Johnson needed to discredit this witness. So are you sure about the time? We give you a reason that he's talking about the time. We're in his point of view. He wants to discredit her. Michelle looked up. I work in a jewelry store. The grandfather clocks struck the half hours I locked up. It was a slow night. I got out on time for a change. So there you are. There's dialogue, you've got action, you have conflict, you're building your story, you know who's talking, you have used beats. Okay, does that help? Helps the reader too. Breaks up things. Number 12, thou shalt not have too much backstory that creates an information dump. An information dump is when you say something like, well, it stops the action cold in the first place. Editors go blind. They won't read any further. It bores the reader. It's an indicator of an untrained writer. If you insist on doing information dumps, then don't pass go. Head for writer's hell and stay there. That's it. You're never going to be published. Information dumps are killers. When you meet someone for the first time, what do you know about them? I've met several of you for the second time today. Some of you for the first time. You've met me for the first or second time maybe. What do you know about the character?
What they look like. And what they
Usually what they look like, what they sound like. You may know what they are by the way they dress, maybe. What they're doing.
Their bearing, their demeanor.
A little bit.
Maybe
Yeah.
you might remember their name.
You don't know them. Same way with your characters. Your readers don't know them. You don't have to say, she was 5'1" and shrinking. You don't have to say that she had long dark hair. You don't have to say anything about them. All you have to say is, you know your hero and your heroine, but you don't have to give it to the reader all at once. When you start off a story, all you have to do, all you have to do is put them in a situation and let them know. Now, this is my first book. This is how I started off I tried to start without an information dump. I started off with Mary That Barbarian has my father totally lost his senses. I put it within the character's demeanor. She would say, because she is an empress, she would say, I am, and then give her lineage, because this takes place in the 12th century. She would give her lineage. I am the daughter of Henry I, the granddaughter of William the Conqueror, the empress of most of this world. I will not marry that barbarian. We know. Then I say something like, her dark hair whipped across her face and she stared at her stepmother. Okay, you've got the dark hair. Now you're getting a picture. You know what kind of person she is. She's rather demanding. She's been brought up that way. After all, her father was Henry I. Henry II is her son. Those of you who remember Lion in Winter, that was Henry II, and her daughter-in-law was Eleanor of Aquitaine. Thank you. Her daughter-in-law. That's an amazing piece of information. That was a fun book to write, to get into that history. You don't have to tell everything about the person right away. You can start with action. Here we know that it was a beautiful day for death. The saffron sun teased the desert, blah, 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 about the desert. I gave you a paragraph to let you know it was hot and temperatures were going up. She tucked an errant strand of, again, black hair. She had black hair. Under a silk scarf she wore beneath her helmet. She looked across the desert at the Persian army lined up to attack her Palmyran forces along with those of her husband. Now we know several things. We know she's a warrior. We know she's about to go into battle. We know she has a husband. And we know something about her because she turned in the saddle and looked at her husband, who was always introspective before a battle. She reached over, touched his hand, and prayed to the great god Bel for his safety. This ritual was performed before every battle, and each time it grew more important to her. She had thought it impossible to love her husband with such depth. Her heart felt as if it would burst at times like these. She loved his powerful shoulders and arms, his decisive manner in battle, and his strength against the enemy. Most of all, she loved the man. He was a good man and a good king. You think we're learning more about the man than we are about the woman, but think about it. We're learning about the woman because of how she feels and how she treats her husband. They had a great love affair. It was fun to read about this great love affair that they had. And fun to put in. So you don't know everything about her. You know you want to give your reader just enough to keep them reading. Okay, who is this woman? Why is she in battle? Why are they fighting the Persians? She's a queen, obviously. It's called the Warrior Queen series. They have to be queens. So, works for me.
And warriors.
And warriors, and they are. And they've been left out of history for the most part. You don't want too much backstory because that stops your action. You want to start with action. You have to remember that your readership is an active. We watch television. We see movies. And how do movies and televisions, how do they start off with their stories? Even if you watch, anybody watch television? I do, sort of. What do you watch? What do you like to watch? Yeah.
I like Bones.
Bones, okay. Bones. Okay, Bones is good. I also read Kathy Reich's books before she started the series, the Bones series. Bones always starts with something horrible, right? And when you first, do you know that, how did we get to know the character, the main character? The what's her name? Bones, that's her nickname. But how do you get to know her? What did you know about her when you first started watching? You didn't know much, but then you learned about her as the series goes on, which makes it difficult for a series if you jump into something in the middle. It's hard because you have to catch up, which is why they learned to go sell those DVDs in packages. So you go back and see the first section. Okay, so you don't want an information dump. You have to remember that when you meet people, you don't know much about them, but as you talk to them and get to know them and your lives intertwine, you learn more and more about them. Action verbs. Number 14, thou shalt not use passive to be verbs. This is kind of like...
Miss 13?
I missed 13.
Oh, well, you know what? There's no 13 because I mistyped.
Unlucky.
No, I just missed it. Just missed it.
So rule number 13 is there is no 13.
There is no 13.
Does that mean you should add it again?
Yeah, I should add it again. Well, actually, what I think I did, when I came home and plugged in the computer, the printer, and I had driven for 9 hours from West Virginia, stopped in Kentucky, printed this out, jumped in the car and ran down. I think I printed out the wrong version, to be honest with you. But it works because I can fill in. Thou shalt not use passive to be verbs. There are times when you have to use them.
What did you say?
Do not use passive verbs. To be. To be verb, to be. He was dancing. This ties in with the ing words.
Yeah.
And she was running. And what's another passive verb? They were running. Were. It's that kind of a thing.
Eaten.
What?
He has eaten in the past tense.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to use the action verbs whenever you can. Ran, walked, leaped, jumped. They usually end in ed. That's past tense, your straight past tense. By the way, I should have brought this and I didn't. There is a fantastic grammar book that you should get. And go online and buy the used copies off of Amazon. It's called A Writer's Reference by Diana Hacker. And it has 12 editions. She died about edition number 6, and they keep reprinting. You can buy any of the editions. A Writer's Reference, a Writer's apostrophe S reference by Diana Hacker. And if you just go to Amazon.com and type in Hacker, Diana Hacker, it will come up. She had grammar books, and it had a section in the back for literature where you had how to write a literary term paper. If you want that, that's fine. But buy that book, and it is my Bible. I use that in the classroom. I make my students buy it, and most of my students keep it because they like it. It will, now you have to know what the rule is to look it up, but you can go to a section called punctuation, and it has a whole list of punctuation errors, and you can say, I wonder if that's mine, and you can look it up, and it's not something you sit down and read cover to cover. It's something you use, something you learn from. And I just do it and give the kids mini questions. Like MINI. I give them like a paragraph and say, look up section such and such and correct this paragraph. So they're learning to edit at the same time. But it's an excellent book. I recommend it. I love it. I'll never use another grammar book. I have about 15 on the shelf. I won't use another one now. This one's good. So don't use passive verbs. You can do that. That's an action verb. You can do that. Give somebody some razzmatazz. Keep it in the past tense, direct past tense. Killed, stabbed, bled. Number 15, which makes it the 14 commandments because I left out 13. There's my problem. Thou shalt not forget the hook. Oh, what's a hook? A hook is a powerhouse of a first sentence or paragraph in your book. A few examples. I just gave them to you. Out of here. These are hooks. I have another. Oh, this is it. Okay, this is the one where she's marry that barbarian. That's a hook. Run. Remember she said run? Was that it? Now let me try a different chapter. See what we did with the hook on a different chapter. You want to hook your reader immediately. You want the reader to say, ooh, what's going on? You want the reader to say, I've got to finish reading this. Your hooks are important at the beginning. The crackling of the fire. We're into 10th century. The crackling of the fire and its warmth lulled Leia into a sleep crisscrossed with dreams of past battles and future battles. In her dreams, the enemy was always the same giant of a man swooping down on her, swinging a giant sword. That's sort of a hook paragraph. The hook that you liked the best was "It was a beautiful day for death," and that's actually interesting because it didn't come to me very quickly. It's like an oxymoron. It's a beautiful day for death. You know, you've got your conflict there. In that short sentence, there's a conflict. That's another thing. All this stuff rolls together into like one ball of yarn that you knit something and make something out of. You can't really separate all your little commandments or your little rules. You can't really separate them because they tend to wad up together. It's sort of like, I doubt that you've ever chewed betel nuts, but when I was in the South Pacific, I chewed betel nuts, and they get bigger and bigger in your mouth until you want to spit them out. They're gross. Here's one. The body lay in a grotesque position across the seat of the Ferris wheel. Blood dripped on the screaming passengers below. That's a hook.
I don't know, that might turn some people off.
It might.
I don't know, it kind of depends on what the next line after it is.
The next line, the Ferris wheel went faster and faster. I don't know what the next line is. I made that one up. Good writing will get you noticed. You want to do the best you can. You want to write. You need to write. You have to write. That's all there is to it. If you're a writer, you have to write. It's like breathing. You have to do it. You get frustrated if you don't. Good writing gets you noticed. Bad writing gets you noticed. How many of you have made fun of some of these romance writers that have this real crap out there? And it makes you wonder. Now, romance writing is getting better. They've gotten smarter. And they're very, very businesslike. I belong to Romance Writers of America, went to their conferences for years and years and years, and I was amazed at how far they had come. And it was all because they started treating it as a business and giving workshops on how not to write romance, how to write better. And they opened up and broadened their base to include books like mine, which have romantic elements but are historical. So now what I'd like for you to do, tomorrow, I want to ask you some questions about you. And tomorrow, if you can, or today, can you write something today and give it to me so I can read it and give it back to you tomorrow afternoon, I think is when the next session is. You want to do that now, or do you want to do that later? When do you want to do that? Have you written enough to give to me now?
How much do you want?
I want as much as you want to give me. I'm used to grading tons of things.
What if you're dyslexic and your spelling's not so good?
Don't worry about spelling. That's that's a different brain.
Okay.
No, seriously.
I'm right, I just can't spell.
I know. Seriously. What time is
That's okay,
that?
I'll leave out work tonight.
I can't read it. 2:15 tomorrow. Thank you.
Like my brain and like what I write does not
Yes.
do that.
Let me tell you something. The right side of your brain is the creative side. The left side is the editing side. Don't cleave those brains. I mean, don't pay any attention to editing when you're writing. You write. Use that right side. Don't worry about the dyslexia. Don't worry about it. That's not a problem. We have editors who do that. Okay? When you switch to editing, then you turn on the other side of the brain.
That's the roughest part.
Yeah, well, you hire somebody, or you get a good friend, or you get a good friend. Friends, that's right. My grandson is graduating from high school at the age of 15, is severely dyslexic. I have to edit. He writes wonderful fantasy novel. I was so shocked when I found out. I'm also a special ed teacher. And so I have edited all his manuscripts, and because I've been editing them, he has been learning how to not reverse, which is amazing.
If I'm writing quick,
Don't worry about it.
yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's not that's true for everybody. You write, you get it down. Use the right side of the brain's the creative side. You get that down immediately. Anything, all your thoughts. My husband finally asked me to stop using a tape recorder in the middle of the night because he'd have weird dreams. Because I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd hit the tape recorder, in the old days before you had, things like this. I'd hit that tape recorder and I'd say something like, don't forget the blood drips off the sword at a slower pace because it's thicker. And I'd go back to sleep. And he'd wake up the next morning and say, did you talk about blood last night and dripping? Yeah, I did. He said, oh, well, finally, after a while, he said, would you not do that anymore? Can you write it down? He actually bought me a pen that lit up when you touched it to paper.
I have it in a notebook right by my bed because I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I got to use that.
Yes. It's really weird.
But I still get in trouble because for some reason I think I'm saying it out loud when I'm writing it.
Oh, okay. That's okay. You're allowed. So tell me something. What do you like to write?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
I mean,
What do you like to read? Okay, most of your writing.
Most of my writing has been sort of technical writing, brief writing, editing.
Good.
other
So you have
writers.
that part down.
Yeah.
So tell me what you like to read.
Historicals. I like
Okay.
Historicals.
Then write them. Pick something and write them. I'm on a crusade to get women back into history. It's really hard.
Right, and that I really,
really
like
hard.
that a lot. That not historical romance, historicals.
Yeah, these are historicals
Right,
with romantic
exactly.
elements.
Well, it has life in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay. And what do you like to read, sir?
See, this is kind of a different subject. I write more like metaphysical, really technical, kind of scholastic kind of things. And I was told that, I have like parenthesis and footnote-itis where I'm afraid to make a single statement without saying all this other stuff to back it up. And someone told me I needed to try to cut that out. I mean, I'm so afraid of not getting it right or saying, well, I know that, here's what I'm saying, and I know it can be this way too, but to try to cover all the bases.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you have to cover the bases if you have footnotes and you have your back stuff. I mean, when I wrote my dissertation, I had to footnote myself to death, and it was a pain in the neck. That's why I won't write. I do write nonfiction, but I don't like to.
But I used to really use a lot of parentheses and then brackets within parentheses too.
That's really cool, but that's really cool for someone who loves grammar, but for a regular reader, that's slowing them down.
You know where I got a lot of that from? The rock writers in the 70s, like Cream magazine. They were
Yeah.
very...
Yeah. It's thoughts within thoughts within thoughts. Remember, it's a spiral downward.
Right. You got to pull yourself back up.
Yes. So what you have to do is recast your sentence. You may have to do 2 or 3 sentences instead of one long one, something like
I
that.
almost always use a semicolon too.
Semicolons are not bad unless you have semicolonitis.
Yeah.
And tell me what you like to write.
I like to write horror fantasy. The more demented, the better.
but I love to read biographies and nonfictions. I love history.
That's interesting. I didn't like history until I didn't have to take it.
Oh, I didn't like history when I had to take it, but I like to do witch trials and stuff, and I kind of mesh that into my horror fantasy. Like I have a historic figure, Torquemada, in the novel that I'm working on now.
Good. Yeah.
And and I kind of twist history a little bit and bring out the actual horror of the historic figure into.
History is twisted to begin with.
It is amazing. It is a great inspiration for messed up stuff.
I start off. Remember, it's his story. I start off by teaching the Salem witch trials and then move into McCarthyism.
Oh.
It's a rather subversive way of saying, "Hey kids, guess what?" And do Arthur Miller's movie, which he wrote, the Salem witch trials. The Crucible. Thank you. I can never.
Which is really not about the Salem witch trial.
No.
Right.
But I do. They read it.
Is the one that's starting?
No. It's okay. You're allowed.
You and I should talk. I've been studying the witch cruises for years.
Compared to the European.
Oh, yeah.
Out like centuries earlier. Yeah. It is amazing. Torquemada is just. You're right.
It's very scary to me. I can't read some of that stuff.
It makes me afraid. So I'm like, if it makes me afraid, then I can put that in my book.
Yes.
And you can feel that fear of that character.
What did you say you were reading that made you afraid?
I'm reading on Torquemada, who headed up the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, they were mean. God.
Yeah, but he's the one that created most of the torture.
Yeah.
And then he had kind of a weird, mysterious, peaceful death, and I'm kind of bringing that forward. And he made a deal with the devil. It's nice.
Something like, oh, yay. How about you? What do you like to write?
I kind of like the whole fantasy, metaphysical type thing.
Good.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm more of a fantasy reader than a sci-fi reader. I've tried both, but I'm more of a fantasy reader.
I like, as far as reading, I like everything. I like horror, sci-fi, I'll read everything. But as far as writing, I think I'd like to write more of the fantasy.
Good.
Metaphysical stuff.
How about you?
Well, I like history a lot. I'm mostly interested in fiction in terms of the characters, which you can't always tell before you get into a book. I read a lot of murder mysteries, mostly because that's what's so available, but I'm interested in the characters, and I do read a lot of history as well as historic fiction.
I read murder mysteries when I'm writing historical because I'm really afraid of I don't read historicals when I'm writing historicals. I'm afraid I'll accidentally copy somebody. So I read murder mysteries, which I like. Yeah. So what do you want to write then?
Well, what I have written is mostly precise science, factual stuff. I just have a lot of things that I can't seem to get out. I want to write about characters and
You want a character-driven novel.
Yeah.
Which is a good novel usually is. Because you care about the characters. Okay.
I like
We've got a time crunch. You want to?
Basically.
Okay. You can shut us off.
I'm not shutting you off. Just
Okay. What do you like to write?
Earlier I said recipes because I was put on the spot, but I actually been writing children fantasy.
Oh, excellent.
I haven't
We need
published
some.
anything because I'm a chicken, but I love to write it. I love to read.
Well, try it. You never know.
I would like to be able to bring children back to reading. I read everything.
Please
as a
do,
kid.
because that's our future audience.
Well, they don't do anything now. It's just
No.
around thinking.
Watch TV.
But I love to read mystery, and historical mystery especially.
Okay. Cadfile. Brother Cadfile. Good historical mystery. Which was limited because they didn't know much about forensics then. What do you like to read?
I like to read fantasy and medieval historical fiction.
Oh, there's some.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm going, ooh.
There's there.
Mostly I write, if anything lately comes out, it's fantasy type stuff with strong kind of warrior women or women who don't know they're warriors yet. So
Okay.
that sort of thing.
They have anthropological proof now of the Amazons on the steppes of Russia. So that's kind of an intriguing area. We have no idea who they were. We know what they did and how they dressed and all that, but we don't know what they controlled yet. So
I love romance, but I have stopped reading romance because I could not find a decent author whose heroine was not an idiot. Was not in bed by page 4. Or the guy she met on page 3. So I want to write a romance set in modern day, with a kind of a witchy character. You know, kind of a witchy woman. A woman
has to be
a woman who's coming into the craft. A woman who's gone through hell and learned her own power.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
You know, learn her own power and powers. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
And
That's going to be tough.
I'd like to
too.
set it where I live in Northwest Louisiana.
And you should.
Yeah.
Because you have voodoo and stuff there too.
Oh, that's South Louisiana.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's more hoodoo where
Yeah, I was
we
using,
are.
they got hoodoo up
Yeah,
here.
it's more hoodoo up there.
And what do you like to write?
Well, I started life as a playwright, and I don't do that much anymore. I do a lot of nonfiction, a lot of creative nonfiction. I'm a hired gun, so I do freelance work.
Yes.
And what I'm doing, branching into now, is erotica, and I'm editing a book of pagan erotica. So if any of you are interested in that, see me. We already have a publisher lined up. And
Oh, great.
I can give you all the details. Yeah.
Well, that's why you asked me if I wrote it.
And it's
I'd like
called
to.
A Garden of Earthly Delights.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Okay, we're done?
What's your name?
Wrapping up.
I'll give you my card.
Okay, this is it. I'm back tomorrow. What time did you?
What is our homework?
2:15
What is our
tomorrow.
homework?
Where do you want us to take our
Homework. You'll see me around.
Okay.
I'll be in here signing books. I'll be around. You'll see me at lunch.
What is the homework?
Oh, homework's anything you want to write and give to me.
How long? Oh.
You can do a page.
And you really want it not edited, just
Not edited.
Thank you for joining Haley Elizabeth Garwood for day 1 of the 14 Commandments of Writing. This has been a Spiraling Up production.